Curse podcast, the BlackCurse podcast, the Black Curse podcast, the BlackCurse podcast, the BlackCurse podcast, the BlackCurse podcast. Woo! BlackCurse podcast. Shout out to the boy Smoke DZA. Man, I fuck with that the Personal Party podcast. Man, I always been a fan of Smoke DZA, man, like for real, straight up. One of the artists that always inspired me to want to create more, produce more. You know what I mean? From a musical standpoint, I always fuck with him. You know what I'm saying? And think his shit dope. And I just checked out an episode of his podcast. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to all the black podcasters who produce, who create. I don't care on the smallest level, biggest level. But I always been a fan of Smooth J's music. And I think it's dope that he got a podcast. It's called the Personal Party Podcast. And man, he had a fucking porn star on there who I always watch. It's Candace Vine, man. I seen he had Candace Vine on what is this episode? It's episode 025. Candace Vine and Lyric Sky. And I'm like, damn. One of the dopest people I've ever heard spit. I don't know, I ain't gonna go that far, but he's nice. I like him. I think it's hard that he got a podcast now. He was doing music and I got a podcast. That shit hard and I'm like, man, that's dope. I'm watching this shit and I'm like, this shit hard, bro. The Personal Party Podcast. That's like a black podcast created by a black man, you know what I'm saying? That I fuck with. I always fuck with Smoke DZA. And that whole vibe at the time was that's the shit that inspired me, bro. That's the shit that kinda got me going, cause it was him, it was Currency, it was Nipsey Hussle, man. They was all kind of vibing with Johnny Shipes and Johnny Shipes of Cinematic Music Group, and it's watching that shit, that whole movement, that whole independent style vibe, the way the videos were shot. It was a big crit around that time, man. That's when Dame Dash had the DD172, just that whole vibe, that whole everything, inspired me to this day. I got a podcast. I ain't booming, you know what I'm saying? I got two podcasts. I got the Garage Talk podcast. Go check that shit out. And I got the BlackCurse podcast. That's my own personal podcast and shit. But anyway, check out the channel. Check out the Gyro House channel on YouTube. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. But anyway, back to Smoke DZA. Bro, I was really into that shit, man. That was around the time, my first time I ever heard Nip. It was I think I heard Nip on that Currency and what was it? Smokey Robinson. You know, so I think he had 2 songs on there. Maybe 3. I don't know, but anyway. Listen to Currency, Smokey Robinson brought me Nipsey Hussle, brought me to Smoke DZA. And it was after that, man, it was crazy just seeing that whole vibe, that whole movement. And man, people like to talk about hate and dick riding a weird kind of way in the black community. For me, I feel like I ain't hating and I ain't dick riding. I'm just giving niggas they flowers, niggas that inspire me. And I'm not afraid to be a black man and say another black man inspired me. You know what I'm saying? Smoke DZA have inspired me. Literally, I just watched one episode of his podcast, the Personal Party Podcast with Candace Vine on it, and that watching that podcast inspired me. And when I think about Smoke DZA, he has always inspired me. He has always been around artists that have inspired me. He has always kind of strange and crazy way. I don't know the backstories of Smoke DZA and his record deal situation. Don't really care. But he always kind of presented that do-it-yourself mentality, that produce it. He was always around people who were producing and creating, you know what I'm saying, like legends in hip-hop. When I say legends in hip-hop, meaning like, okay, uh, he worked with Currency and Nipsey Hussle. You know what I'm saying? Nipsey Hussle, you know, everybody fuck with Nipsey Hussle. Smoke DZA and Nipsey Hussle has been rocking for a long time, and it's a connection there if you do your research. But anyway, Smoke DZA also worked with Dame Dash, and these are two people who are living. Dame Dash, Smoke DZA, the Harlem connection, all of that. Like, at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? I want to give both of them their flowers. Like, Dame Dash, Smoke DZA, like, y'all both legends to me. Y'all both inspire me to create. And I ain't hating, and I definitely ain't hating because I look up to y'all. I understand what y'all gave to the world. But also, I ain't dick riding. Like, you know, I got my own stuff. I do got my podcast, the Garage Talk podcast, the BlackCurse podcast. Go check that shit out on Genre House channel on YouTube. But anyway, so I'm not dick riding. What I am doing is basically just giving, you know, black men who inspire me to create they flowers. And shout out to Smoke DZA, shout out to Dame Dash, shout out to Big Crit, shout out to Nipsey Hussle family, shout out to Currency, shout out to all the Johnny Shipes. Even though, you know, he not black, he Jewish, but he inspired me in a way. You know what I mean? So shout out to that, the whole cinematic music group. Shout out to Smoke DZA. Just shout out to the whole, you know what I'm saying? And watching this podcast, the personal, what's it? Shice Bubs. Shout out to them niggas, man. Like, all y'all niggas, like, in researching and understanding and seeing what's going on, man. Like, I fuck with that. I fuck with that movement. That movement has inspired me. That movement deserves a documentary. That movement deserves books written about it. Like, that movement, like, means a lot. And y'all influenced a lot of creative people. Like, that movement was big, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, shout out to them niggas. The Garage Talk podcast. Go hit that like button. Go hit that subscribe button. Yeah, ownership. That's what I'm talking about. Own it. If you black, own it. I don't know. BlackCurse podcast. Boom. Curse podcast, the BlackCurse 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 podcast. Woo! BlackCurse podcast.